But here's Mississippi State up big in the second half. That ball is knocked out of the hand of Card, and that is being...
Here's Cooper, four-man rush for Florida State, going to cut it loose. Phil Yaw-Johnson caught it inside the 10. Phil Yaw-Johnson on his feet, he'll cut back, and Jacksonville State has won at the Horn.
It's now time for the return of the College Football Rewind Show on Podcast Network 49, where we take a look at all of the best action from the previous week's college football slate, and we break it down for you, the fan. It's the College Football Rewind Show only on Podcast Network 49.
Does not have the legs, and Chris Davis takes it in the back of the end zone. He'll run it out to the 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game. Auburn's going to win the football game.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into the College Football Rewind Show. I am Money Mike. I'm going to be joined pretty quickly by the other two members of our panel today. But real quick, want to let you know, if you're on Facebook, go ahead and throw us a like. Share the video, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or any of those apps, go ahead and hit subscribe and go ahead and throw us a 5-star review. But we're going to have to kind of throw this pretty quick here at you. So I'm not going to waste any time bringing on my guest host today, Mr. Mike Pettison, Brad Corso. Brad, how y'all doing this week?
Pretty good, man. Couldn't be better.
What's going on, guys? I'm doing real well. I'm embracing the NIL in college football. So if you want to cash at me, it's God's quarterback's a bitch at whatever. So anyway.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Well, let's get things started here. Number 20, Arkansas versus Georgia Southern. Arkansas obviously picking up the victory 45-10. Gentlemen, what did you think about what we saw here? Obviously, a pretty dominant victory. I'll say this much. There was times where, and actually Sam Pittman addressed this in his post-game press conference, there was times where I thought KJ looked like I had given up, and I was just like, KJ can't throw a deep ball. KJ can't accurately throw a deep ball and things like that. Then there's times where he all of a sudden throws a 40, 50-yard bomb, and it lands in a receiver's hands. And like the announcer said, you can't place the ball any better. Is it Kendall Briles that's keeping a lid on this kid? Can he not accurately throw the ball? I mean, that's the biggest question we have right now at the University of Arkansas, I believe.
Well, I don't think he's the most accurate quarterback. That's definitely not his strength. As we all know, teams expose your weaknesses and take away your strengths. So it's going to come a game where his arm is going to have to prevail and have to get that.
There's a lot to manage in life right now.
So that being said, it's always things to work on, even with the 3-0 20th ranked team in the AP poll. So he has to improve in that area. We've seen at times where he made the throw. The receiver made a play, but I want him to make a throw in stride, under pressure, and do it on a consistent basis, because teams in the SEC are going to make you do that. And let's face it, it's going to be a step up in talent next weekend in comparison to other Southern. All respect to those kids in Southern Georgia, but at the same time, it's going to be a step up in talent this weekend. So KJ is going to have to make more plays with his arm as well as his legs. So I like what he's done, but it's still room for improvement. Absolutely.
Backup quarterback or not, they're the number 17 currently. I don't know. I haven't seen the new poll, but they're the number 17 heading into yesterday. A&M is, there for a reason. So it'll be interesting. Obviously, a well-coached team. Brad, what do you make of KJ? Like, Are you still where I am, where you don't think the kid's accurate enough to sling it around in Kendall Briles' offense? Do you think they're slowing it down for him? I mean, you even saw Hornsby yesterday, and they didn't even let the kid throw it once. They kept him running. So I'm wondering about Hornsby's arm talent.
Well, here's the thing. Obviously, I had messaged Mike during the game and messaged you during the game. And obviously college football is a game of overreaction. We won the game 45-10. We handled our business. We struggled. Sam Pittman alluded to it early. At the half. We didn't have that sense of urgency that you should play with. We came back. We made some adjustments. We got it going. We beat them 45-10 in a game that Arkansas, I felt, was never in doubt as far as winning the game. I never had that moment like I did against Texas where I thought, at the beginning of the third quarter, crap, here we go.
Right.
I had it in the bag the whole time. It was a little closer than I wanted to at times, but I never had that sense of crap, we're done. But with KJ, going back to that, after reflection on it last night, I have to take into the consideration that, we're used to Felipe Franks, who played 2.5 seasons at Florida before he came to Arkansas. Right. We're used to Tyler Wilson, Austin Allen, Brandon Allen, guys that have seen the SEC, in more starts than what KJ's had. He's had 4 or 5 starts, I think, in his career. So we have to take that into consideration. Does KJ have an issue sometimes staring down the receiver? Yes, he does. Is KJ inconsistent at times? Yes, he is. But we're also watching the maturation of a young quarterback being thrust into a national spotlight stage, fortunately for Hog fans. We're number 16 in the country with the AP coming out. I think we're going to have some growing pains. I think that Razorback fans need to calm down and relax a little bit and take this season for what it's going to be. And, we're coming up on Murder's Row. Texas A&M doesn't look very good. They started a new quarterback. Who knows what's going to happen in Arlington? Georgia, best defense in the country. I don't think they've given up an offensive touchdown so far this year in their couple of games. So, I think we just need to let it happen. KJ's going to be fine. I think they're slowing down the offense for him. And with the reliance on the running game, averaging like 5.66 yards a carry, I think we're going to be okay. We're going to lose probably 3 or 4 games this year, and people just are going to have to just let it happen. KJ's young and inexperienced, but he's growing and he's learning and he's getting better. And who knows what's going to happen. But I think that the criticism on KJ Jefferson right now is a little premature, and I was guilty of it myself at first. So.
Well, and even like I alluded to a second ago, Sam Pittman said he's never seen somebody live and die, or a fan base live and die on every throw from a quarterback like we do for KJ. It's either, oh my God, he's the greatest, but then he turns around and throws a terrible incompletion, and we're like, get him out. It's time for Hornsby. Yeah. It's true, though.
Yeah. It's half full and half empty, man. You got to take the good with the bad. But at the same time, as Brad said, he's young and we look for him to improve. So the good thing about it, this isn't his ceiling. He can improve his accuracy. He can stop staying one receiver now. He can start going to through his progressions and finding receivers, because it's easy for us sitting on the couch to see open receivers, but at times he should see them too. You know what I'm saying? Because he practiced that. He practiced against those defenses, and he's having reps. So it's room for improvement, man. And as long as he understands that he has to continue to get better, as long as the fans understand, like Brad said, hold your horses, be patient. This is a young kid. He's still growing. We'll be fine.
And I gotta give him credit. I kind of buried the lead here, but one thing I do want to point out, he did go 13 of 23 for 366 yards and 3 touches. With that being said, he is the first Arkansas quarterback, though, to go over 300 yards passing since, I believe they said 2016. So we talked about Felipe, and Felipe looked amazing, but Felipe never did that. So
here's a statistic, though. You talk about getting buried in the lead, but the statistic that I guess nobody's really talking about is, okay, so you look at 13 of 23 and you go, 50-something percent, 56%, I think. But you look at that and you think 3 drop passes, that's 68%. But in the second, third, and fourth quarter, I think that KJ Jefferson's completion percentage throughout the second, third, and fourth quarter alone was like 75 to 80%. So okay. You have to take the first quarter And it's gonna be. I mean, I watched the quarterback today, Jimmy Garoppolo. He's like 29-8 as a starter, and his numbers weren't impressive. But you know what? It's a win.
Hey.
It doesn't matter. It is a win, and yes, you're gonna have some concern because defenses are gonna get better. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's all gonna be. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be okay. We got to a hot start. And I think that's the thing that everybody's kind of concerned about is, we're 3-0 and everybody's got these ideas of grandeur, and it's not going to be there. We're not going to go 12-0. We're not going to go 10-2. We're an 8-4 football team at best.
Which is great.
And I think that's the thing that people lose sight in when you start off hot, and then of course you go out and you handle Texas, which obviously looks like we actually were able to handle Texas because of what they did last night. But I think KJ's going to be fine. I think he's going to settle down. And, we'll see what comes Saturday. This is going to be his test to see what happens because we didn't really have to have him against Texas. I mean, his legs, yes, but his arm, we didn't have to have him. And I guarantee you defenses are going to start keying on his arm and making that beat him. And we're going to have to see where we go from there. But I have confidence that KJ can get it done.
The interesting thing that I'm wondering as we wrap up this game, the interesting thing I'm wondering is how much of the Kendall offense we've seen thus far for this season. I wouldn't think that you'd keep the lid on very tight against Texas. I think you probably would go almost wide open full playbook in that case. But, I mean, Texas didn't put up much of a fight, so to speak. So have we really seen everything that Kendall Briles is, going to use come SEC play?
Not at all. It's only been, 3 weeks into the season? No, I say we may have seen 55-60% of the offense, maybe. Especially not as much of the passing games we want to see, but it'll slowly maturate into that, so I'm confident.
Yeah, I think as his confidence grows with KJ, I think we'll see the playbook open up a lot more. Let's go ahead and get into one that really surprised a lot of folks yesterday. Number 1 Alabama versus number 11 Florida, and I have a theory about why this game was so close. The reason why I say this game was so close. This was the first time the Alabama Crimson Tide went on the road and had to play in a negative environment with negative fans in over a year. A lot of people want to say that Alabama's invincible, but this is the first time a lot of these young kids were exposed to an atmosphere like the Swamp. I think that is the biggest reason why they struggled yesterday.
I was going to say, I think that you're right in one aspect. They did. They had a negative environment, but at the same time, the reason that Alabama struggled so mightily was because their young quarterback at times got caught up in the deafening crowd. And I mean, that's the inexperience that we talked about in the prior game talk. It all comes down to your quarterback, the field general. And these crowds are loud. Last year was an anomaly year with COVID. You only had like 15,000, 20,000 people in the stands. And while they were loud, you had another 40, 50,000 to the mix. And it's even worse. And the fact that Florida is not a bad football team. They came into the game 7-point underdogs. I picked Bama to win, but I picked Florida to cover. Go back to last year, the national championship team. Alabama only got by Florida by 6 points. It was 52-46. So, with that being said, it's just these miscues, and it's a scary thought because Saban's going to use those and turn Alabama around, and we'll probably see a different Alabama team going forward at this point in the season.
Pettis?
Oh, I definitely agree. Florida's a young team, man, and Alabama is too. But what we have to remember, guys, is Florida is full of talent. That's a very talented bunch. They probably can match Alabama 1s and 2s across the board. So at that point, you hope to be in the game in the fourth quarter, in which they were. And like Brad said, they've been on their heels even last year. They were on the cusp of beating them. So I'm not surprised. I tip my hat to Alabama to pulling that game out because that was a very tough, hostile environment in which they prevailed. But I don't see that Florida bunch losing another game or two. Maybe another game for that matter. But
that Jacksonville game looms very large.
You don't do more big victories in this conference, but at the same time, this gives Florida a lot of confidence. They can play with the big boys, and they shouldn't lose anyone else in this conference.
So, gentlemen, I gotta ask: is the quarterback controversy over after Emory Jones played so well against this Bama defense? 18-28, only 195 and a pick, but really the pick didn't hurt Florida as far as losing the game. Is the quarterback controversy over? I forget what 15's name is.
Said it. It's over. Know why? Emory Jones, he has the experience. He's been in hostile environment. He's been in Death Valley. He's been in Jordan Hare. He's been at Bean Hill in South Carolina. So he's experienced that hostile environment where he can still lead a team up and down the field of victory. You look at the leader. So for right now, I think it is.
Brad, do you think the quarterback controversy in Florida is over?
I think that Dan Mullen has an idea of what he wants to do, and I think it's just like at Arkansas. I think that you're going to see Dan Mullen utilize his talent wherever he feels it necessary to be. I think you're going to have, this Jones as your starter, but it wouldn't shock me to see, him rotate the other guy in a couple of times here and there just to give another look. I mean, Dan Mullen is where he's at Florida for a reason. The guy can just flat out coach.
Absolutely. I mean, he had Mississippi State rocking and rolling, and we saw last night Mississippi State just dropped a game to Memphis. The Mike Leach experiment in the SEC isn't looking like it's going too well. Okay, Georgia versus South Carolina. Georgia taking care of business between the hedges, 40-13. JT Daniels goes 23 of 31, 303, 3 touches and a pick. Stetson Bennett 1 of 3, 4 yards and a pick. Another team with a quarterback controversy, but I tell you, Daniels looked impressive yesterday against the Gamecocks.
Listen, man, I don't get the whole JT Daniels experiment deal or what's the hype. I guess highly recruited, transfer from USC, but it seems like that Bennett kid outplays him every time. He makes plays with his arm, with his legs. He gave Arkansas fits when he came in the game, if you guys don't remember last year. At that point, Arkansas was up 3-0 in the third quarter. So that Bennett kid presents a lot of issues for defenses. So it's just kind of baffling to me with that quarterback controversy thing. I would personally start him, but it's good for Georgia to have a D coordinator on the opposing team to have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. So I get it, but like the 49ers today, Georgia defense rules all. That's where it starts and stops with that defense. That's the NFL defense. It's ridiculous.
And, obviously I don't want to compare Arkansas's defense to Georgia's because obviously they're on 2 different levels. But I'll say this. It seems like the defense is winning out over the offenses quite a bit this year.
It's early. I mean, sometimes it takes a minute for the offenses to catch up. The defense know where they're going, Well, the offense know where they're going. The defense doesn't. But at the same time, I mean, sometimes defenses chemistry come faster than offenses.
Very true. Very true.
Good way and get chemistry, different personnel, this and that. So, yeah, I think defenses have the edge at the beginning of the season, especially when you have as much talent as that Georgia bunch has.
Good point. Good point. Brad, what did you think about Georgia's impressive, to me at least, impressive performance over South Carolina?
It's totally expected. Georgia comes in probably one of the top defenses in the country. And you go back to week 1 when they held Clemson to 3 points. Is Clemson as good as Clemson has been in the past? I don't think so, but it doesn't matter. I mean, they're still Clemson. They're still you only gave up 3 points to Dabo Swinney. South Carolina is not very good. I don't know if they're going to right the ship at any point in time. They've had a lot of struggles here lately from where they once were in the Spurrier era. But the thing is, as Pettis alluded to, you talk about defenses. And you go back to, you look at in the NFL, the Steelers, the 85 Bears. Go back and you look at the history of going into the Super Bowl and probably even the college football playoffs, probably more offensive-minded in college. But, there's a reason that most Super Bowl teams have like a top 5 defense in the country, because like it's been said before, defense wins championships. It's kind of like golf. You drive for show, but you putt for dough. Offense is pretty. Offense is amazing. You got to have it to score points. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like when we had Petrino and we couldn't get over Alabama, because what are you going to do when their defense shuts your offense down that one possession that you need? Then your defense has to come out and then score or stop them from scoring so that you can get another shot. And that's what it is. That's why these defensive-minded coaches are having so much success in college football. Kirby Smart, defensive coordinator. Nick Saban, defensive mind. I mean, these guys know what they're doing, just like Sam Pittman. An offensive line guy, but he focuses a lot on physical defensive football. And I think that's why Georgia is very scary in the aspect that they play solid defense. And I look for them to have I think the SEC East comes down to Florida, Georgia at the world's largest. Can we even say cocktail party anymore? Is that even allowed? I don't know, but fuck it. I just did it, huh?
Well, I was supposed to say, fuck it.
Jacksonville.
I completely agree with you, though. It does come down to that game in Jacksonville. The only game that I think is going to mean anything in that stadium this season anyway is the world's largest cocktail party. But definitely, I think I would agree with you that that's what the East is going to come down to. Here's another one. Is it time to finally say Spencer Rattler is not a Heisman quarterback? I think it's time. We need to finally sit here and definitively say Spencer Rattler is not a Heisman quarterback.
Is he a top 10 pick at this point?
That's what I'm wondering. I mean, the kid reminds me a lot of Brett Favre in that he thinks his arm talent alone is going to avoid any interceptions that he may throw. And it's not working out for Oklahoma. Well, I mean, it's still working out for Oklahoma because they're winning. But, I mean, come on now.
I think
this kid is way too hyped for this to be happening. Anybody disagree with me?
I think Oklahoma has a pretty good defense as well, man. I think that's they're hiding behind that D because they struggle. What was that final score, 23-16?
23-16.
Against let's face it, it's Nebraska. It doesn't carry the name it used to carry with the old black shirts, but it's still the University of Nebraska.
A Nebraska team that lost to Brett Bielema in week 0.
Right, a 1-3 Brett Bielema. But you definitely expected Oklahoma to beat them by more than a measly 6 points, man.
Right.
That's kind of a shock to me. I thought Oklahoma would put up more points.
And here's the scary part. Oklahoma's probably still the best team in the Big 12. But again, we see Oklahoma isn't ready, obviously, for the SEC right now.
No, not at all, man. Not in the trenches, no. They have the skill position players, but they're as ready as anyone else in the Big 12. But even with Oklahoma, they would struggle because up front, on the sides of the ball, the physicality. And you got to have not 1, not 2, at least 3 to compete with Alabama.
Bride, is the bloom off the rose for Spencer Rattler for you? And what you think of Oklahoma yesterday?
I mean, here's the thing. It's week. It's game by game by game. I mean, it's Spencer Rattler right now after week 3. No, he diminished his stock a tad bit. But you know what? There's a lot of football left to play. And as long as Oklahoma keeps winning, I don't think it matters. I don't think that Spencer Rattler was the reason that Oklahoma didn't do so well. I mean, it's the Arkansas-Texas thing we go to. I mean, Nebraska's going to get up for Oklahoma, not only because they're the top dog in the Big 12, but that isn't a historic rivalry for Nebraska. I mean, Maybe Oklahoma doesn't see it that way anymore, but Nebraska does, and they're going to get up. I mean, we saw it in the Houston Nutt era. There were teams that LSU, for instance, Arkansas LSU has been always close, no matter. Well, I say always. There's been a couple of times, but I'm saying when Arkansas has had some relevance at coaching, not Chad Morris, or Burt, and that's another thing too, by the way, both of you guys. I will not make a show appearance if I ever hear his name pronounced Brett ever again. Burt Bielema, that's all I'm saying. But anyway, no, I mean, you look at it though. Arkansas has always played LSU close. Does that diminish LSU's talent? No, that's just Arkansas got up for them, and maybe Nebraska got up for them, and Oklahoma was, they're college kids. I mean, I'm sure if me and Mike went to play basketball was against a couple of guys, and we knew for a fact that we were going to run them off the court, our intensity is not going to be that heavy. So maybe Oklahoma kind of overlooked Nebraska a little bit, and Nebraska snuck up and made it closer. But at the end of the day, it was a win. And I'll know more about Spencer Rattler come December than I'm going to know about him here, middle of September. That's my thought process on it.
Good point. Good point. Here's one I really want to know, though, based upon what we've seen from Oklahoma this season, and I'll ask both of you quickly. Is Oklahoma a playoff team? Pettis, we'll start with you.
Well, if they went out, they are. I mean, guess that's two. But if they don't have a hiccup in their conference, they will, because they're gonna have a representative from the Big 12, just because. So I see them getting in if they handle business. Yeah.
I still think Penn State could sneak in and take that spot. Brad, do you think Oklahoma, if they take care of business, is automatic in, or what are you thinking right now as far as Oklahoma in the playoffs?
Well, in all honesty, I'm actually keeping my eyes on the Pittsburgh Steelers of the Big 12, the Iowa Hawkeyes, only because they remind me of the Steelers with their freaking uniforms. But no, I like Iowa. I like Iowa out of the Big 12. Iowa State's another team that could do some damage in the Big 12, even though they did lose
Big
to
10.
Iowa. Is it Big 10? Iowa's in the Big 10? What the hell am I thinking?
The Big 10.
Oh, well, whatever. Hell, if I give Oklahoma, it's the Big 12, I forget. Who's in the Big 12? Oklahoma State's not very good, but they always get up for that game, so they could beat them. I mean, it's any given Saturday. I know that it's actually any given Sunday, but I don't think it matters anymore. I think that Alabama's got some vulnerability. Oklahoma, are they a playoff team? I don't know. I think that this is one of those anomaly years where you're going to have a team that, like Cincinnati, if they can get past Notre Dame, they're going to be in the college football playoffs. I think this is that random, and I say UCF, I know they're not in it, but this is that UCF year where if they go 12-0, they could easily slide in there, because it's just
somebody's going to hiccup.
Well, Ohio State has looked vulnerable. Clemson doesn't look very good. Plus, they've got a loss. And then you've got Michigan over here, who's quietly gone 3-0, and they've had some pretty dominating performances. And
it's almost like Harbaugh.
My boy, man, hey,
job.
You say one bad thing about Harbaugh, dude, I'm coming through this phone. I love Harbaugh, man. I wish he was still coaching the Niners. I mean, but so I've always hoped he had success. Plus, I kind of like Michigan, but is Oklahoma a national championship contender this year? Yes and no. I'm curious to see how they're going to perform against some better competition. And I'm not so sure that Texas might not be there with them when they get ready to play. And that's good for Arkansas fans too, by the way.
Actually, I was texting back and forth, I think, with you, Pettis, during that Texas game, and I was like, this kid obviously ain't for real. And then he goes off last night again. I mean, it was against Rice, but that kid just absolutely ate Rice up for lunch. Okay, Oregon versus Stony Brook. Obviously, you got to look at the level of competition. But number 4, Oregon gets it done 48-7 against Stony Brook. This is the best Oregon team, in my opinion, since Chip Kelly left to go to the Eagles back in, I think, 2012, I want to say. So, I mean, Oregon has a very good chance. They just beat a a down Ohio State team, if you can call them that, in Ohio State. I think that pretty much rules out Ohio State for the playoff this year. In my mind, it does, at least, unless they come back and just wreck shop on everybody. But what did you think here? I mean, obviously the level of competition isn't there, but what did you think about Oregon rolling to a pretty easy victory over Stony Brook?
Well,
Oregon looked pretty good yesterday. Oh, yeah, Brad.
I was gonna say, unless we're talking about college baseball, Stony Brook doesn't have a chance against Oregon in this game. You can ask LSU about Stony Brook. Just saying. But but I mean, Oregon's great and they're a good football team, but the Pac-12 has still got some players in it. Stanford being one of them, even though they're coachless. USC's one of them. Then you've got. Let's see, who else? I don't know. And then Oregon always seems to struggle against Oregon State. So it's good. It's a long season to go ahead and say that they're, one of the top elite teams right now. Yeah. But I mean, they still got to go through the Pac-12 and there's some teams in there that could give them problems. I don't know. Another team you got to watch out for is I understand they lost. I understand that they lost to a really good, was it Fresno State? But UCLA is not a team to mess with, and that being Chip Kelly's team.
I mean, to be fair, though, I think the argument can be made, and I think it's 100% accurate, that Oregon has the most marquee win of this season thus far, and going into Ohio State and beating them, and decisively beating them.
I would think so.
They do. I'll give you that, but my whole thing is that one win does not a championship make unless it's there in January. So, there's plenty of time for Oregon to stumble, and they've got plenty of roadblocks in the way that they could stumble across. I don't know who. I haven't seen their schedule. It'd be kind of interesting to see, but I see 2 or 3 teams on there that could beat them on any Saturday if they have some kind of struggle. But right now they're playing good football. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of have to kind of pencil them in as your early front runner to be one of the 4 this year. So yeah, I'm thinking they're going to expand it at some point. But I would say Oregon's a front runner at the time, but they've still got a lot of football left to play as well.
Okay, Pettis, anything before we move on?
I'm like Brad, man. It's just too early to crown them, man. Oregon's let you down before. I mean.
This is true. Oregon obviously isn't as physical as what we would like.
Right. They start off fast, but they kind of fade out when people start, on the back and praising them, and giving them their flowers. So let's kind of wait and see on that. Great start. Looks good thus far, but let's wait till they get in the meat of the schedule close to November and see what's happening then. So.
It was actually interesting. Yesterday I heard a story, and it made me laugh. One of the analysts on, I think it was Fox, said that Cristobal is building an SEC program in the Pac-12, and I was like, come on now. Pump your brakes now. Pump your brakes. Oregon ain't the SEC yet. We'll talk come January. Okay, go ahead.
They all say that until they play SEC school.
That's true.
That's so common.
True. Number 5, Iowa gets it done against Kent State, 30-7. Spencer Petraeus, 25 of 36, 209 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Goodson adds on the ground 22 carries for 153 and 3 touches of his own. I mean, Brad's not wrong. If there's a second, if there's a close to that Ohio State win, it was Iowa over Iowa State in Iowa State. Iowa's got a pretty impressive victory on their resume thus far, and of course keeps it going again to yesterday against Kent State.
I like Iowa. I mean, you got to agree with Brad. They're definitely a dark horse to me to be a representative in the college playoff, no matter what conference or conference. It's a hard-nosed team, man, and it's funny that Cristobal said something about SEC. I'm not comparing them to an SEC team, but that's how they play. hard-nosed defense, tough in the trenches on both sides of the ball. They run the football, throw it when they have to. And their offense, their whole makeup is designed to be in a game in the fourth quarter and try to take it home. So you really got to like this Iowa team. If you ain't ready to buckle your straps up on your helmet and play hard-nosed football, 4 quarters, you don't want to see Iowa.
That's very true. That's very true. Brad?
Well, they got a big win, but I can't really – you can't judge the win for anything. Kent State, what are they known for? The only mortician that fucked Arkansas basketball.
Touche.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Number 6, Clemson versus Georgia Tech. I'm telling you, we're learning week in and week out, just like Spencer Rattler. DJ Uiagalelei la is not an elite level quarterback. The kid had all this pressure thrust upon him, and he's not there.
Now, he ain't elite.
They barely got it done. 8-14. DJ goes 18-25 for 126. Will Shipley, 21 carries, 88 yards, 2 touches. That's their 2 touchdowns. Jordan Yates, though, I was rather impressed with Georgia Tech's quarterback. The kid almost completed a hell of a pass there in the end zone to tie it up. But unfortunately, Clemson's defense, being what it was able to deny that. Is this that Clemson again is showing us that they're not going to be playoff bound, or is this that Georgia Tech's actually a pretty damn legit contender in the ACC?
Clemson won't be going to no playoffs this year, bro. No.
I agree. I agree. Brad? What do you think? Is Clemson taking a step back this year, or is Georgia Tech just that damn good?
I think it's a combination of both. I think Georgia Tech has had some fall off, but let's be honest. They just lost probably one of their best quarterbacks to ever don the Clemson orange. What more can you say? We're trying to compare, and I can't remember his name for the life of me. Shit.
You talking about DJ Uiagalelei or?
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the what was the other kid's name? I cannot remember now.
Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, when you lose Trevor Lawrence, it's like it would be like going from Joe Montana to Garoppolo. He may be serviceable, but he's no Montana. And let's be honest, Dabo Swinney knows what he's doing. He'll get it righted over there at Clemson, and they'll make some noise. They're in the top 6. I don't know their schedule, but they're going to face a couple of teams. I think they have North Carolina maybe on their schedule. Miami's not very good in the ACC. I guess Notre Dame's still playing football in the ACC, at least in football, but Notre Dame doesn't look very good either in their couple of outings, but they still getting it done. And that's the thing that I guess we all have to look at is as bad as these guys are playing, they're still getting it done. So if they can put it together, wow, look out. And I don't know how much experience their quarterback has either. So the game may start coming to him as well the more he plays. So who knows with Clemson? They've got talent for sure. So you can't ever rule them out, and they've got a great coach that knows how to adapt and make changes. But again, it's one of those situations where we're going to have to wait and see. And I think that's what everybody that we're looking at in college football is, we're going to have to get to November before we can really start seeing the fog lift and the picture clearing up.
Absolutely. And now the team we're going to meet in 6 days, Texas A&M, number 7 Texas A&M, 34-0 winners at home against the New Mexico Lobos. Obviously, you don't expect Texas A&M to struggle, backup quarterback or not. But this backup quarterback, 19-33, 275 yards, 3 touches, and a pick. I tell you, if I told you it was a backup quarterback, I feel like Brad and Pettis, you both would be like, okay, we're going to win this game. But this backup quarterback is pretty damn good here at Texas A&M. I'm not so sure that this quarterback situation is going to affect Texas A&M. That number 7 ranking's looking good, and the Hogs may be in a little bit of trouble next weekend.
First of all, you never underestimate on it. I don't care if it's the start or the back or whatever. That's a loaded bunch over there, man, that gets up for this game every year in Dallas, in which they have won 8 straight.
9.
So with that being 9, my bad, brother. Damn near 10 straight. It won't be no overlooking nobody on either sides of the ball. I promise you that. They'll be up for this game, backup or not.
I can agree. Brad, what do you think? A&M, are we going to be able to take advantage of the backup, or is this kid too damn good for us to try to hedge our bets on that?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, obviously, this game this past weekend was the Aggie Bowl, and the A&M Aggies proved to be better than New Mexico State Aggies. Or New Mexico, is it New? I think the Aggies, I think. Oh, what the hell? Who gives a shit? It's New Mexico. They're known for Lobos. They're okay. So it's New Mexico. It's whatever. And I shouldn't say that, but Texas A&M is a great football team. Their quarterback being new. Here's the thing, though. Has Texas A&M seen at least what we've seen and provided defensively in the 3 weeks that we've played? We're averaging around 285 yards a game given up, which is right now it's like 25th or somewhere 40th in the country in total defense. Barry Odom said it last week. The play that killed us against Georgia Southern was a play call that he said that was his bad, that he made the wrong play call. Other than that 76-yard run by their quarterback, we had pretty much stopped them. We stopped Bijan Robinson, who will be in the Heisman mix at the end of the year as a running back. I mean, the kid's phenomenal, but we held him to under 100 and something yards, I think. So, A&M is going to get a test as well. This is going to be the litmus test moving forward in the SEC West for these two teams is how can they do it? The scary thing about this coming matchup Saturday is that Arkansas, the last time Arkansas went 3-0, they played this Texas A&M team, and it actually started a 6-game skid for the Arkansas Razorbacks. So I'm kind of nervous about that, but I look to the fact that we've played them fairly close in the past, and this time we legitimately have more experience on offense. We have more experience on defense. We're in Sam Pittman's second year, and I think that this quarterback for Texas A&M is about to face a defense that he's never seen before. The scariest thing to me is can he take advantage of what seems to be every so often? We did it with Texas. We did it with Georgia Southern. We let some wide receivers get wide open behind us. Can he capitalize on that?
Yeah, we haven't been burnt by that, but my goodness.
Well, and here's another thing.
Wide open receiver, drop a damn pass.
Well, here's another thing. Now we're getting back to a standard offense. We're not going to be facing the triple option that we were facing at A&M. It's going to be more of a traditional style offense. And so we're going to be able to get more, we're going to be able to kind of stunt and get pressure on the quarterback. And we're going to see, is our defensive line bigger than A&M's, both mentally and physically? Can we be bigger than them? We're going to see, are we bigger than them? Are we more physical than them? Can we get pressure? Can we rattle them? But at the end of the day, Texas A&M is still number 7 in the country. They came into the season with high expectations. They've got a great coach in Jimbo Fisher. And the fact that it's just going to be a war. They got us on a neutral site, even though I've been there seven of the so odd years, and A&M still seems to outnumber us. I think this is going to be the year where you're going to see 50-50 mix, and it's going to be loud. It's going to be a raucous environment. It's in Jerry's world, and it's going to prove that you can actually score a touchdown in Cowboy Stadium. I know we haven't seen that in a long time, thank God, but I mean, I should quit. I'm not stopping taking jabs at Dallas. I don't give a shit. But I don't know, Pettis. I like Arkansas in this game, they open up as a 6-point underdog. But I could easily see this going to Texas A&M. I think we're going to have to eliminate the mistakes that we've made against Georgia Southern and Rice and play that Texas-style game where we're pretty clean and, we don't make a lot of mistakes. I think we can win the game. I really do.
For the love of God, do not target anybody.
That's hard, man. I mean, you're just playing the game at a high level, and sometimes it happens.
For the love of God, Drew Morgan, calm down.
Need to change the targeting rule, man. It's just
they do. They really do.
Yeah,
they really do.
They put you on death row. One infraction. They need to switch that up. But I'm like, Brad,
have been rough.
Don't make mistakes. Take care of the ball. We'll be fine. It'll be fine. I think, like you said, some major stick for Texas A&M too. I just understand Sam Pittman will not let this team overlook A&M or look at them as inferior because it's a backup quarterback. He gonna remind they don't beat this school 9 straight years.
I'll be honest, to get this team to believe and buy in, I think we need the ball first, and I think we need to come out aggressive and score a touchdown.
Well, if you think about it this way, though, if you go into that with the intangible being more to play for, I still think, yes, Texas A&M is looking at college football playoffs. They're looking at national championship implications. They're looking at conference implications. Same as Arkansas right now, I guess you could say. But realistically, as a fan of the Arkansas Razorbacks, I would say that Texas A&M's probability of playing for a national title at this point is higher than Arkansas. I'm a realist in that aspect, even though they're both undefeated. Right. I think that Arkansas, if you base your intangible on who has a bigger game in front of them, I think this is a bigger game for Arkansas. This is that game where you go, okay, Petrino's year against Georgia. The Georgia game was that, okay, yep. If you want to turn the corner, you got to beat the Georgias of the world, the Alabamas of the world. And we went out and we beat Georgia. We beat Texas. That was a game we had to win. We can't just be the status quo of, we beat this team, but we can't get over the hump. This is a game for Arkansas that means more, I think, to Arkansas, because if you look at the pundits in the national media, if you look at, obviously Texas A&M's not going to say it out loud, but I guarantee you their highlighter is wore the hell out on that matchup at Alabama.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. And I completely agree that Arkansas is not looking anywhere but 6 days from now in Arlington, 2:30 on CBS. And all you have to do to look at that and to find that out is listen to Sam Pittman's pregame or postgame speech to his players yesterday. He said, it don't matter whether you're in New York, California, anywhere. If your family turns on that TV at 2:30 on CBS, they're going to see the Hogs play. Sam realizes the opportunity he has here.
And I like Arkansas' success because I don't have to get up at 11 o'clock in the morning to watch a game anymore. I like that.
Okay, gentlemen. Number eight, Cincinnati, taking care of business against Indiana, but it looked rough there for a little bit. This is why I'm not so sure that Cincinnati doesn't stumble against one of the teams they should beat, and Cincinnati doesn't make it in the playoff this year. They should have, in my mind, they shouldn't have even been close, and they let Indiana stick around. Now, they put their foot on the gas when they needed to and pulled away, but this was a lot closer than I expected. We lost Pettis, Brad.
Oh, well, not so fast, my friend. Indiana's a great football team. They've been a perennial thorn in the side of teams for a couple of years now. Cincinnati's also a great football team, and they're one of my dark horse picks to be in the college football playoffs. Now they have a week off, and then October the 2nd they're going to travel, or they go to play Notre Dame. If they can get by Notre Dame, then I think that Cincinnati pencils themselves into a college football playoff berth. I really do. I mean, now I have a question. So what conference is the Big East even a conference in football, or is that just a basketball? I can't. What conference is Cincinnati?
Pretty much the Big East is the American now, I guess, is what it would be.
Yeah, AAC, yeah.
Yeah.
I really think, Indiana, like I said, has been that thorn in the side of a lot of teams. They've been a good football team. They took Ohio State to the brink a couple of years back, or maybe it was last year. But they're a good football team, and they had a lot to play for and a lot to prove. And it's they're no slouch. Indiana's more than a basketball school now. But Cincinnati was able to get it done, and that's all that matters. At the end of the day, it's not like in college basketball where you're looking to get seeded higher. All they're looking at is to see what your record is, and with that number 8 in front of them, they could move up and challenge for one of those top 4 spots, especially this year in college football. I don't think that you're going to have an undefeated team in college football, honestly, unless Cincinnati gets to Notre Dame. I think you're going to see it's going to be one of those years where I don't think you're going to have a clear-cut, ultimate undefeated team, unless Nick Saban somehow uses this past game as motivation and turns that Alabama program into the invincible monster that it usually is, which isn't out of the question. But I like Cincinnati moving forward for multiple reasons. I just think they execute a good game of football, and they do what it takes to get the win.
Very true, very true. Pettis?
Yeah, I don't see Cincinnati losing a game in their conference, obviously. So
right.
If they go on non-conference slate, they won't lose. That's obvious. I don't see it. I don't see a Memphis beating them. I don't see Georgia. Not Memphis. Yeah, Memphis. Houston.
Memphis,
that'll be
UCF.
UCF. Some of the school. There may be a couple of shootouts. It may be a couple of shootouts there, but I don't see anybody beating them. I think they're going undefeated. And like Brad said, they come back during the playoff conversation.
Okay. Number 9, Ohio State versus Tulsa, 41-20. Tulsa stuck around for a little bit. Is this another situation kind of like Clemson where Ohio State's going to take a back seat to the playoff, and it's just not their season this year?
Well, Ohio State still has a test in Michigan, but they also have, there's a lot of teams in that Big Ten that Ohio State's going to have to reckon with. The big surprise this year, Michigan State, could be something to look at later on down the road for them. Let's see, who else would be? Michigan, obviously, their big game of the year, which they've had no problem with Michigan in the past, but this could be the year, hopefully the year, because I don't think Harbaugh survives after this if he loses to Ohio State again. But it's just hard to rule out Ohio State because for whatever reason, they just always seem to get it done. They find a way. Last year they basically bribed their way in after they said they weren't going to play a certain amount of games, and then they got that game. But no, until the end of the year, and Ohio State has 2 or 3 losses, I don't rule them out just because they always find a way in, and most of the time you see why they shouldn't have been there, but we'll have to see. It's just one of those situations where I don't know. Who knows? Maybe something starts clicking and they turn it around. I don't know.
Very true. Pettis?
Man, I go by tradition, and like you say, if they lose early, they usually run the table and always in the conversation. They're always the best one-loss team in the country in November, December, the last 10, 15 years. So you definitely can't count them out. But at the same time, this shows it's a lot of parity in college football with these COVID and these 5th and 6th year seniors. It's a lot of parity, man, and a lot of good football going around. So we'll see, man. Up on them yet, but as far as the national football, the playoffs, they're on the outside looking in already.
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of good football, our nightcap last night, Auburn drops to Penn State 28-20 at home in the whiteout. Is Penn State for real is the question I have coming out of this, because Auburn's very greatly improved, or Penn State is not exactly what we thought they were. So is Penn State for real, or is Auburn just that damn good?
Half full and half empty. You got to remember, that's still a former SEC football team that went to Happy Valley and competed to the end of the fourth quarter and almost came away with a victory. I think Penn State is improved. I think they're a pretty good ball club, and they maybe at the upper echelons of the Big Ten, 1 through 3. But at the same time, as we alluded earlier, it's a little different in the SEC, man, the physicality. Auburn has always been known for what? Their defense.
Very physical.
Yeah. It showed last night. That's why they were able to stay in the game, because they held their own. But
here's my take on Penn State. Number one, and it hits kind of personal with me because I love Sam Pittman to death, but I really thought that Arkansas made the worst mistake in its football history by not going after James Franklin when he was at Vanderbilt. The guy has been nothing but a pro. He has been Jesus Christ himself when it comes to football programs. He basically resurrected a fucking academic school in Vanderbilt to notoriety within the SEC.
Right.
They could have gotten God's quarterback himself, Tim Tebow, and would have. Right. I just love saying God's quarterback. I'm just sorry, but because we know he's not God's tight end, he got cut. But but no, James Franklin, and that's the thing, man, is James Franklin has brought that SEC mentality to Penn State. Not that they needed it. Penn State's been linebacker university for forever until they got known as the Sandusky's. But you think about where Penn State was at 10 years ago, and then you had Bill O'Brien came in there and he pulled them out of the ashes of that whole scandal and turned them around. And then Franklin comes in and just moves on it. And let's be honest, they've got talent. They've got competition in the Big Ten. Penn State, unfortunately, has to play the Wisconsins of the world, the Ohio States, the Iowas of the world. They have a tough competition, but I think James Franklin's got it together. And honestly, I've seen a lot of talk about how some of the officiating may have kept Penn State closer to Auburn than it should have been. So I like their coach. I wish that Arkansas would have gone and gotten him originally instead of
Arthur Chad.
No, I'm not saying not Bert or Philip Morris, but both of them. But
okay.
That's just my thought. I think James Franklin's got it going on, and he knows what the SEC is all about, and he knows what physical football is. Plus, like I said, Penn State was known as linebacker university for a long time, so I think they've got the intangibles to make some noise. Whether they go all the way or not, I don't know yet, but they're good enough to do it.
Okay, so we got we got one school already looking for a head coach, that being Southern Cal. I've got a couple questions for you. Number one, is Florida State and Miami next? And number two, who's getting this job? I'll tell you right now, the leader in my clubhouse, if I'm at SC, is James Franklin. I back up the Brinks truck to Happy Valley and say, hey, bro, come to Hollywood. You guys, we were talking before we went on the air about how you have to have that certain swagger and you got to be a lot like Pete Carroll. I think that's James Franklin in a nutshell. I don't think it's Cristobal. I don't think it's the Kansas City offensive coordinator. I think James Franklin is the perfect hire for USC, and I think he would make that jump for that kind of job. And then, of course, obviously, give your front runner there. And if you think Florida State, Miami will be looking at least by the end of the season. We'll start with you, Pettis.
Man, my front runner for the USC job, I just really don't know, man. It's hard to say. I think it's going to be somebody that's attached to the program, that understands the coach, who understands the winning tradition and understands that they'll fire your ass if you don't. That's just the bottom line. So it's hard to say, but I think they're going to tread ties with somebody. It could be Lane Kiffin. We don't know. I doubt it. It could be Lane Kiffin. They may want Grandpa himself. Harold, we just don't know. They have to do something. It has to be a splash hire because they've had too many misses. I don't want to give up on Vail this quick at Florida State. It's hard for these GMs to hire these guys, these school presidents, to hire these guys and say, hey, I made a mistake.
Right.
Guy had COVID, the COVID year, so they'll just kind of say he's behind schedule or whatever may have it. And as far as Manny Diaz, we know Miami's more bark than bite, so they need to take some of the drip. They need to tone the swag down a little bit. I don't think they'll get rid of him this quick, Mike, because he can still possibly, compete for the ACC title. So it's too early for that, bro.
I think the deal with Manny is they didn't want him to begin with. They kind of got stuck with him after God bless, what's the Mark Richt retired. I think they kind of got stuck with him. So I think the leash is very short.
He was intern. They hired him. They extended him. So they had an opportunity to move forward. So
True. Well, I think Brad went ahead and left us a little bit early, so that pretty much wraps everything. You got anything before we get out of here, Pettis?
No, that's it, man. Great show. Congratulations to all the victims. Yeah.
Absolutely. And hopefully next week we'll be talking about another Arkansas victory in Arlington. We'll see you next week for another episode of the College Football Rewind Show. Good night, everybody.
But here's Mississippi State up big in the second half. That ball is knocked out of the hand of Card, and that is being